Hello, you're back with a single malt review, and now, many years ago, we looked at single malt vodka from New Zealand's own, relatively new, Cardrona Distillery. Now, Cardrona have some excellent single malt whiskey on the way. I've tried some of the work in progress release. It is already making waves, and it's going to be truly mind-blowing once it reaches its commercial release age. In the meantime, though, what we have here is, it's not single malt vodka, this is single malt gin. So, we have a broadly similar concept. Let's just quote directly from the label, this is the way to go. So we have locally foraged rose hips, along with the traditional juniper, coriander seed, angelica root, lemon and orange zest, vapour distilled into a single malt spirit.
So a fairly typical gin, except for the rose hip. That's a bit of a departure there. So while we're going to do a bit of a bit here, while Dave tastes and expounds on the various notes of this, I am going to, over on the other side of the screen, prepare a martini, because I think if a gin can't stand up to a martini, something is wrong. So we're going to see how it performs in both its incarnations.
Yes.
Mine and Dave's.
Yeah, we have in fact tried a few gins in the past. Though it didn't make it to YouTube, we did look at the botanical gin from, I believe it's Brookladdy. Is that right?
Yes, we have looked at the botanist.
Botanist, that's it, yes. This is a similar concept in a
I've made my
malt spirit distillery.
Made things difficult for myself by forgetting the vermouth, so I'm just going to have to be fast here while Dave talks.
However, we do appreciate a good gin, but you've got to acknowledge that it's not often you find a gin which is good on its own. Usually you think gin, it's a basis for a G&T, it is mixed into other things, but every now and then you get a truly excellent herbaceous spirit which is fine to drink just on its own. And this gin, at a hefty 47% ABV, is exactly one of those. It is crystal clear, as you'd expect. On the nose, there is obviously a quintessential gin undertone, but the addition of the rose hips is what really sets it apart. Rose hips being the fruit of the rose bush. You think of them as flowers, but of course they do fruit. And that is what we have adding the flavour here. There's a little on the nose, there's a lot of your classic gin, there is juniper, there is citrus. However, on the tongue is where it really starts to transform.
Yes, I do use Noilly Pratt, and yes, it is a wee bit better than other vermouths. The stories are true.
On the tongue, there's an immediate bitter, herbal and spicy hit. However, there's a strong backbone of the rose hips. And the most common, I guess, for us in the West, encounter with rose flavouring would be rosewater Turkish Delight. And that is just really a very valid basis for comparison. That's what a lot of what it tastes like. It is not exactly sweet, but it's not as bitterly bone dry as, well, most other gin, honestly. It adds a sweetness, a floral component, which just elevates this into something you can sip on its own, savour on its own, without being overwhelmed by the medicinal bitterness or even that relatively strong alcohol content.
Yeah, because what is it, 47?
47.
Yeah,
it is not wanting for the ABV.
That's no mucking around strength for gin, you know.
So you have measured out a hearty double measure of the gin.
I have indeed. Oh dear, they've gone.
Twist a very fresh lemon rind into the glass there.
Straight off the bush.
There's a whiff of vermouth in that glass too.
There is just a whiff. So you'll note I'm stirring, not shaking. If you're going to muck about with a gin, choose a cheaper one.
Shaking, the only reason a gin might usually be stirred, not shaken, is if you shake it, you'll break up the ice cubes, adding more water into the mix. Give it a stir, you are chilling it, but not watering it quite so much. No. That's why some people insist that James Bond is wrong.
Well, James Bond was wrong from the start, because he had a vodka martini, and a vodka martini is like a... Oh, I'm going to need time to think of something withering enough for this, but...
So a vodka martini, which is shaken rather than stirred, is... I want to taste nothing, please, but I want to taste a little bit more of nothing than it normally would.
A vodka martini is like a scooter compared to a motorcycle.
Now, we have cast our aspersions. Let's cast our attentive critical eye onto this excellent rosehip gin in a proper traditional martini.
So I've served this with a twist of lemon. I think for a sweet gin, a very sweet, sort of very herbal gin like this, I think a twist is going to do it a lot better than an olive. An olive obviously is going to give it a savoury element that suits some gins, not others. Rose hips, I think, definitely want a bit of a twist, not an olive.
There's already lemon zest in the gin, but it's not at all a bitter or citric gin, despite that influence. So, yeah, adding the extra citrus here will just freshen it, really, rather than pushing it too far.
That's kind of a trip right there.
Oh, yep, a fresh lemon is really carrying it.
Yeah, the lemon is just going to mega amplify the zest that's already in there.
That is cool and crisp and so sweet and light. It doesn't feel like you're drinking almost straight gin. It is alarmingly drinkable and approachable.
They're shatteringly crisp.
Yeah.
I think for such an interestingly attenuated gin, you almost want to find a unique garnish for it. I'm not even certain what that would be. Possibly just...
It is so citric and floral with that particular blend, though.
I think, and this is maybe going out on a limb, I am not a bartender, I would want to experiment with a couple of petals of a particularly, like an aroma-centric rose. I think a couple of crushed petals, or heated, might impart just a little bit of active fragrance there that may fit a little bit better with the rose hip, because I was definitely right about the twist over the olives, but it's still... The intensity of that lemon, I think, is just beginning to steamroll the very, very subtle rosewater aspects of the rose hip.
To be fair, it is a big twist of lemon.
It's a healthy twist, yeah. Fresh lemon too, straight off the vine.
Yeah.
The lemon vine.
Possibly
straight off the tree. Yeah, so I'm not going to say it's the best martini in the world. Thus, this is probably not the best gin in the world to make into a martini. No. I think if you are going to create the perfect martini with this, you're going to have to get a bit more experimental than I have done today. But there is a lot of promise in here. And being 47%, it will stand up to quite a lot of additives.
And on the very biggest plus side, it is perfectly drinkable and very enjoyable on its own, which is so rare in gins.
And the fact that it's single malt,
the
fact that it is a barley-derived gin,
the
body and the concentration here is a lot rounder, a lot deeper, a lot weightier than most other gins, which are made from grain spirit and are column
Exactly.
distilled.
Like when you look back at our first on-screen encounter with the innovative and exciting Cardrona Distillery, it was single malt vodka, and you, not a vodka fan, very much enjoyed your encounter with that actual single malt vodka. It had so much flavour, so much character and nuance, despite being just basically a new make spirit.
As I said then, a real vodka aficionado should have, by definition, hated it because it tasted of so much. And that, I think, that really is the byline for everything that Cardrona makes, because everything they make starts the same way. It starts with the same mash, the same barley alcohol. It's just distilled differently and then treated differently. Everything they make comes from the same lineage, and it all comes from the same extremely high quality base spirit. There is no potato peelings, there's no wheat chucked in, there's no rye, no whatever.
No sugar beets, just
pure barley. And that shows.
Yes.
That's always going to show. So it's certainly not the cheapest entry into interesting gins, but it is probably one of the more avant-garde, to say the very least.
Craft gin is, I understand, a big and just increasingly exploding field internationally, especially in, say, London, Portland, those other sort of hipster culture
It's
hubs.
hella popular, that's for sure. Gin and fine gin is a bit... It's still in the wind a little bit. I keep track of various spirit awards, San Francisco Spirit Awards, International Spirit Awards, and Gin is a very, very level playing field in that the huge production gins, being Bombay, Tanqueray, they will year on year win it just as much as something astonishingly expensive or niche. So either people don't know how to judge gin, which I understand because it is very, very difficult to judge on. It's such a nebulous kind of a drink, or it's very, very difficult to make a gin which really rises above the pack. And I think that's probably more the case because gin it's such a primary thing, and it's all made in every gin is 80% the next gin. It's really only that last 20% where they get to really raise their head and be something different. Because the components of gin are so core right up until the last little flourish on it. And this one's last little flourish is the rose hips. And others, they take in other little botanicals here and there, but it takes a lot to be noticed in the world of gin because... Yeah, these days the quality of even mass-produced gin is very, very high, and yeah, it's a hard game to win, I think. But it is certainly not for the lack of trying. There is a lot of new comers to the market. I saw a Japanese malt gin on the shelf the other day, which I was almost tempted to pick up. So yeah, you'll be seeing more gin in the future. I can tell you that much.
So. To be honest, I'm not going to put a score to this because simply I'm not a gin reviewer, at least very much not at this stage. It is so alien to the core of what we review here on the show that trying to assign this a score would be relatively arbitrary, especially since it's the first gin we've actually talked about on camera. So, that aside, this is a very enjoyable spirit. It's good on its own. It is good in combination with traditional gin accompaniments. And an easy recommendation if you can find it.
If you can possibly find anything that Cardrona makes, then have a wee look because you probably won't disappoint.
Yeah,
they start as they mean to continue. They are really all guns to proper Scotch whisky and fine spirit manufacture over there. They are no expense has been spared over in that place, and I can guarantee that. I've had a good walk around there fairly recently. We do plan to go and have a wee pick through their warehouse when they are 5 years old, halfway there, as it could be said. Their target's always been 10-year-old spirit, so we will make an appointment there and have a wee stalk through their warehouse. In about a year and a half, I suppose, is when that will be coming due. So until then, you'll just have to stay frosty, as we will, and they do, right up in the mountains in Otago. So anyway, we'll be back with something a bit more orthodox very, very soon. Slanger, keep safe. We'll be right back.